Quaking Aspen tree leaves is a type of foliage that I came across on Instagram recently. They were featured on this very beautiful wreath done by this florist called Soil and Stem. I reached out to her and I understand that this leaf is usually in a nice shade of leafy green tones, but if you cut them in early fall, they will have this really nice yellow tint to it. So I've decided to include this foliage in this class content because I think it's always nice to introduce a new shape or a new color to the usual leaves that we've been doing. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start by preparing our wires. This is a 24 gauge white wire that I'm using. So I'm going to trim them into maybe about into 3 parts. So if you prefer like a longer stem, you can go ahead and leave them in such a long branch. But I would love to work with smaller branches, so I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to set them aside. Next, we're going to move on to our colors. For the Quaking Aspen tree leaves, we are working with the Juniper Green from Wilton, the cream color from Sugar Flare, and also the Egg Yellow. Because it's a nice yellowy tint of green to it. So these are the colors that we'll be using. So I'm going to pull them out from the bottle. The cream tone is also like a yellowy tone, but it has like a nice creamy richness to it as compared to the egg yellow. So the egg yellow is something more vibrant. So having a mixture of these two really gives you a really nice shade of green when you mix them with the green. So I'm going to go ahead and mix the colors. So the first color that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mix some of my green into the new well. And then I'm going to add some of the egg yellow to kind of brighten it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some of the cream tones as well. So I'm pretty happy with the color that I'm seeing here, but I'm just going to swatch it just to check if I'm getting the right tones. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that and I'm going to just swatch it on my kitchen towel. So this looks really good and I'm pretty happy with this tone. So for Quaking Aspen tree leaves, what you can do is, if you do not wish to mix 2 tones, you can have the same tone but just kind of balance out the richness of it. So you can have like a lighter green and then a darker green. And that is what I did on some of the leaves here, so you can see as well. So I'll probably just go ahead with another green that is a little bit less yellowish. And I might just mix these two together. A little bit more. So this looks like a nice shade of green, maybe just a little bit more yellow. So I'm looking at these two, I think I might go with a color that's somewhere in between these. So I'm going to go ahead and mix these 2 colors together. Maybe somewhere in the middle. And then I'm going to swatch it. So this looks like a nice lighter green that I can go for. So I'm going to go work with this green. So I'm going to put this aside. And because we are playing around with the richness of it, we're going to try to get a lighter shade of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour some vodka into a new well. And just using some of the greens here, I'm just going to go ahead and lighten it up. And I'm going to check against my swatch. Okay, so this looks like a lighter green of this for sure. If you want to go lighter, we can do that. Maybe we should do that so there will be a higher contrast. Okay, so I think this is really soft and light. It's a good contrast as compared to this green. So we're going to go ahead with these 2 shades. So in your course notes, you should be able to see these two cutouts. These are the two sizes that we provided for you guys in the course notes. So if you want to do something smaller or bigger than this, feel free. So it really depends on what you're going for. So now we're ready to add on some colors. I'm going to dab my brush into the darker green. And then I'm going to tap off the excess. What I'm going for is like a darker green along the bottom half of the leaf and then a lighter green from the top half. So for the bottom half, I'm just going to use a flicking action, and then I'm going to just kind of like do this. So both the front and the back. This way. And then for the top half, I'll be adding our lighter green over here. Tap off the excess. So this looks definitely too light, so probably just add in a little bit more. This looks better. Turn it around and do the same thing to the back. So once you're done with that, lift it up with your brush, and we're gonna vein this guy. So place it in the middle and just punch it. So there you go. You should be able to achieve a very nice veining if you've added the right amount of liquid on your wafer paper. So sometimes the wafer paper might still be too soft to be taken up or out of the veiner. So this one, it can be done, but if it's too soft, you can always just leave it inside the veiner first, and then you can proceed to work on the next one. Once you're done with the next one, most of the time this one should be done and you can lift it up. So I'm going to repeat the entire process so that you can see. If you want to have more of the darker green going higher up, you can do that too. Now I'm going to place this here. And I'm going to remove this leaf from the previous veiner. So now you can see from here, it holds up really well, and as it dries, it will just dry into a really nice natural curve. So you don't have to do any impression on this guy. So now we're ready to vein the second one. So this is what you get. So we're gonna let it rest for a while. And I'm gonna move these guys over. So here are some of the Quaking Aspen tree leaves that I've made ahead of time. If you do not wish to make them into a branch, you can just make a lot of these individual leaves and just keep them in the bag, and then use it as and when you need it in the future. So I'm gonna pull this guy out. And when it's still really soft, you can just kind of like bend it a little bit, just to give it some movement if you like to. If you do not like how sharp this end looks, you can always grab a pair of scissors and then you can trim it into something rounder. Here. Okay, so now we are ready to attach them onto our branch. So you can either attach them in individual wires like that, just with one leaf to one wire, or you can go ahead and attach more leaves onto one branch. I'm going to show you how we do that. So with the wire, I always like to just give it a little bit of bend so it looks more natural. Then I'm going to grab one. I'm going to dip my brush into the wafer paper glue. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of the glue right here. And then press my wire on it. Yep, there you go, it should be stuck on. So if you're happy, you can always move down the line and add a little bit more of the leaves.
In the top.
Okay, then can continue.
Switch side.
Sorry. Okay. So you can also attach them in individual branches. Just one leaf to one branch. And we can tie them together using a floral tape later. Okay, we're gonna set these aside. I'm gonna show you how we can tie them together. So because our branches are white, I'm gonna use a white floral tip. So in order to activate the stickiness of the floral tape, we're gonna just give it a nice stretch. Okay, I'm gonna set it aside. And at this point, you can just bend your wires, your leaves, into the shape that you want before tying them together. You can always bend them later as well if it doesn't fit what you are looking for. Okay. So once you hold up two elements and are happy with it, this is where I'm going to start taping down. So I'm going to grab my floral tip. I'm going to just turn one round. And then twist, secure it. So after a few rounds, this is what you should get. So they should be nicely secured. You can tie this thing up. And then what you want to do is move down the stem at a 45-degree angle, twist and press onto the stem. And this is how you can tie them together. So once you reach the very end, you can grab a pair of scissors and you can trim them off. So if you like to combine a branch with something that has 3 leaves on it, you can do that as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just bend this. And then I'll try to find a spot where they can fit together nicely. I'll probably bend this guy a little bit more. And I'll probably drop them lower so it looks more cohesive as well. Okay, so this looks good to me. I'm going to grab my floral tape and then I'm going to do the same thing and start taping them. So twist and turn and press it down. Then you can trim it off. And there you go. So you have a very nice branch of Quaking Aspen tree leaves here. So the difference between the ones that are ready made and this, you can see it. The wires for this are actually dusted really nicely, but these are still white. So next, I'm going to show you guys how you can dust this so they look a lot more natural. So to dust our branch over here, we'll be using these 3 colors, basically the cinnamon, kiwi, and sunburst. I'm gonna do a mixture between all these three colors to achieve a very nice and natural greenish brown to it. So I'll go ahead and get some green. And some cinnamon. Lastly, just a little bit of sunburst to bring back that bright yellow tone. So I'm going to do a mixture of this. A little bit more green because I want them to still look green. So lesser brown and lesser yellow tones. Okay. So at any point, if you're dusting this branch and you realize that the colors are a little bit too dark, which is what is happening in this case, what you can do is you can bring some of the dust colors and you can also dust your leaves as well. So I'm gonna go right into this one over here. That way both greens will kind of blend together a lot more seamlessly. And do both front and back. Then you can work on other leaves as well. Okay, so make sure the entire thing looks cohesive. So at any point, if you need to just add in any colors, add on any leaves, you can feel free to do that. Okay, and there you go. So here are some of the leaves that we've made ahead of time. You can see that some of them I've created a branch with just 2 leaves, and some of them I've created a branch with more than 2 leaves, so we have 4 leaves. It really depends on what your cake design calls for. If you need something that is longer, you can have more leaves going down the stem. So if you want something shorter, you can keep them in 2s, or you can also keep them in just individual branches like this. So when it comes to decorating your cake, you have more options to play around with. So here I have a 1-tier cake design where you can see that I've added these Quaking Aspen tree leaves as like a nice new green on top of the other greens that we've been using. So you can see how it adds a nice new dimension to it, even though if it's just a few branches. So here we have a 3-tier cake design where the foliage is just kind of like mainly the Quaking Aspen tree leaves. So they're kind of like the main heroes of this cake design. You can see because of its nice yellow tint, it creates a very nice ethereal look to the entire cake design, and it gives a really floaty feel to it as well. I really love these leaves because it stands out from the usual rose leaves that we've been doing. And you know, it's always nice to just do something new, and it allows you to stand out from the crowd as well. So that's it for this tutorial. As you can see, in just a few simple steps, you're on your way to creating foliage that impress. I cannot wait to show you more tips and tricks in the upcoming videos, so remember to upload your works on Instagram so I can see them and I can repost them as well.